Hello and welcome all to the talk on our paper, First Do Not Harm, Studying the Manipulation of Security Headers by Browser Extensions. This is a joint work with Dr. Ben Stock, who is my supervisor, and from CISPA Hemod Center for Information Security, and myself, Shubham, a master's student from Salem University at the moment. In this work, we analyze the implication of security headers being modified by the browser extensions at the client side. So before we jump onto our study and findings, we briefly discuss upon why security headers are important, as well as the capabilities of the browser extensions on the web. We have seen over the time that the increase in client-side logic has also added to the attack surface to the applications and could be exploited by the adversaries on the web. To tackle such client-side vulnerabilities, there are several countermeasures which allow the server to control the behavior of web applications at the client. The web server can essentially define the security policies as headers and send them to the client within the HTTP response. When the browser receives them, it may enforce the policies to the application and thus controlling the behavior of applications at the client. Well, there are various security headers being deployed by application intended to protect against specific vulnerabilities in the web. For example, CSP protect against excesses by restricting the content at the client. And then we have X-frame options header, which prevent against clickjacking by restricting the domains which can frame any given web page. While HSTS enforces all communication between the client and the server over TLS. And then we have this X content type option header, which protects against content sniffing attacks at the client side. Then we have these browser extensions, which are really nice and powerful client-side tools, usually developed by third-party developers. The browser vendors host a central repository where the users can download these extensions from, and the developers can publish them as well. These tools are usually domain agnostic and intend to augment the user experience at the client side by providing functionalities such as ad blocking, password management, translations, social media plugins, UI enhancements, and many more. Technically, what makes these extensions powerful relative to the native web applications, as well as capable to perform security critical operations, is the fact that they have access to the privileged JavaScript APIs exposed by the browser. With the help of these APIs, they can read and modify the content of the DOM, can communicate to the web server within the context of the loaded page using the content script component, as well as intercept the request and response that is communicated between the client and the server. So what essentially could go wrong here is that a benign extension may inadvertently disable the security policies just to carry out their functionalities at the client side, or they could be entirely malicious and intentionally strip down all the security headers, exposing the application to attackers. Well, previous research work do suggest that the malicious browser extensions are not that uncommon and very popular among users as well for their seemingly benign functionalities that they promise. Illegitimate modification of the DOM, user fingerprinting and tracking, malware installation, and data theft have been widely reported in the past among malicious browser extensions. In fact, a recent finding by Avast researchers also suggests that these extensions are very much prevalent in the ecosystem, and after taking several measures against them. So in this study, we developed an automated analysis framework to specifically focus on those extensions that firstly intercepts the request and response between the client and the server. And secondly, those extensions which modify or target any of the security headers within the response. And then thirdly, to understand which headers are most widely targeted by the extensions or pose as the biggest roadblock for their functionality. So for this study, we also choose 4 widely deployed security headers on the web based on previous reports by the academia as well as the industry. So the 4 headers are the CSP, the content security policy header, the X-frame option headers, the HTTP strict transport security header, and the X content type option headers. Also, for the sake of completeness, we also look at the report-only version of CSP, which, as the name suggests, only reports the violation without enforcing them at the client side. We now have a look at different phases of a framework. The first phase is the static analysis phase, where the framework analyzes the code base of given extensions to find definite evidence of header interception. It filters out all those extensions which does not contain the permission to intercept the request and response in the manifest. In this case, the permission would be web request. For each of the remaining extensions, it forms a unified abstract syntax tree for all the background script in an extension and looks for the methods or the function signatures used to intercept and modify response headers at runtime. For extensions with such signatures at the code level, it then extracts their target URL and hosts to determine the extension's operational space. It specifically looks at the manifest as well as the host permission sent along with the event listener to determine the target host for an extension. To implement the static analysis phase, we use the Node.js library called Acorn Loops. In this way, the framework filters out all those extensions which does not show any sign of header interception at the code level. Now, the next step is the runtime analysis phase, where the framework performs analysis for each extension separately to exactly identify the security headers and the associated modifications that the extension makes. More precisely, it visits each of the target URL for an extension by opening two instances of the browser, one with and the other without the extension, and then further collects the headers. For extensions that operate on all URLs or any active tab that may be opened by the user, the framework visits the Tranco top 100 domains to identify the modifications among these headers. After collecting the headers for each extension, it would lastly perform a one-to-one comparison for response headers in both the datasets and determine whether the extension is benign or could be potentially suspicious based on the kind of modifications detected. To have a close look at how the framework compares the header data and determine manipulation, firstly, it groups the responses based on the metadata in both the datasets, and then parses each of the target header data into a JSON document for comparing values. This basically allows to handle multiple instances of the same header, but with different values, which may be sent by the server. We label those headers as dropped ones which are present in the dataset without extensions, but are not found when crawled along with the extension. Similar is the case when we label a header as modified and injected. For headers that allow URLs and wildcards as part of the values, we also additionally compare the registered domain or the ETLD+1 domain for each of the modified URLs. As in the example case, we see that the extension modifies the CSP header by replacing the self attribute with of the attacker control domain, which could be potentially suspicious or malicious to say. While at the same time, one of the Facebook CDN domain is replaced with its subdomain, which may not be suspicious at all. So the framework would be able to detect such changes effectively. So to evaluate our proposed framework, we conduct an analysis over 186K Chrome extensions that were available on the Chrome Web Store between the month of January and June 2020. So from the static phase of analysis, we detect that over 17,000 extensions request for the web request permission and their manifest to intercept the request and responses at runtime. While 3286 extensions among these 17K has shown clear sign of header interception at the code level. We further see that among these 3.2K extensions, 82% of them operate on large number of domains, declaring all URLs as part of their host permission. When analyzing these 3.2K extensions at runtime, we observe the fact that 76% or 2485 extensions among them clearly tamper with at least one security header at runtime, whereas among 17% of them tamper with all four of them. We often observe that the proxy and chatbot extensions are often among these 17% extensions which filter out all the security headers at once. As observed with the static analysis, we see that 90% of these 2.4K extensions operate on large number of domains, as stated in their host permission. Now, to identify which particular header poses as the biggest roadblock for extensions functionality at runtime, we look at the kind of modifications as well as the figures to determine for each of the extensions individually. Looking at the alterations among the target headers, we see that many privacy and security aware extensions inject these security headers or strengthen the existing policies within the header by modifying them. This at least is in case of these three headers, say HSTS, XFO, and XCTO. But this may often lead to, number one, compatibility issues among the legacy applications, as the web server may not be ready to obey the security policies. And secondly, these modifications may often or inadvertently be misconfigured by the extensions, such that it may entirely disable the security policy. We find cases with multi-valued headers such as HSTS, where we observe that extensions also often miss out on important directives, such as include subdomains, preload, or set the max age value to less than the desired value. There have been instances where the max age value is often set to 0, which effectively disables the HSTS header entirely. Further, in case of CSP and CSP report only, we observe that extensions heavily modify or drop these headers for their purposes. Specifically for CSP RO, we observe that all the alterations correspond to the dropped instances. Given that apart from the content restriction, CSP is also widely deployed for other client-side security purposes, such as TLS enforcement and framing restrictions, we perform an extended analysis on the nature of modifications among different directives within the CSP. Here, a dropped instance refers to the situation where an extension dropped the directive on a domain within the CSP and not the header entirely. And similar is the case of modified and injected instances of directives. We observe that many extensions modify directives which enforce content restriction and further add unsafe attributes and third-party domains. The default source directive, which serves as the fallback directive for other directives that controls the fetching of resources at the client, is also often targeted by adding wildcards or other third-party domains. Extensions don't like framing restrictions as well and would drop frame ancestors directive to load a given web page inside other domains of their choice. They also target the frame source directive to inject analytics and ad serving domains originally not included by the web server, probably for the monetary benefits. At the end, for whatever changes that they make, they don't like to be reported to the web server for violations at the client side. Thus, they drop the report URI and report to directive to achieve this. We often find similar cases where script source is modified and the report sample attribute is stripped from the directive itself.
So by looking at the modifications within the directive of the CSP, we tend to understand what exactly extensions are after, and they basically intend to bypass the content and framing restrictions at the client side more often than not. So to summarize our work, we saw the criticality of security headers among the web application and also the capability of browser extensions, so much so that they can modify the security headers at the client side at their own good to carry out their seemingly benign functionality, which could either be benign or malicious. At the end of the day, this could be a threat to the security of the web applications. We evaluated our proposed framework by analyzing over 186K Chrome extensions and found that over 2.4K extensions tamper with at least one security header, while 553 of them tamper with all the target's headers by simply stripping them off. CSP and XFO is observed to be the biggest roadblock for the extension's functionality at runtime, which we often observe while looking at the directive level modifications at the CSP. Given that the fact that we only look at those extensions which shows clear sign of header interception at the code level, and also focus on 4 critical security headers for this study, we understand that the reported numbers underrepresent the issue in the ecosystem, and we intend to enhance the detection rate of a framework. And all. Thank you very much for your attention. I would now be happy to take your questions.